Captain Picard, help me. Help me. He knows him by name. Help me.
Bitch, I did help you.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Chat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week, we take a look back in time, decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. Review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all that information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you'd like to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing tonight?
Gene, tonight we're continuing the bounty of science fiction films that Jeremiah has commissioned. It's been a fantastic run, and each week I'm more excited to see what's coming. This week's submission was no different. He wanted us to go back to 1996 and do the science fiction classic Star Trek First Contact.
And Jeremiah wrote in and said, Shat Crew, thank you so much again for allowing me to commission these sci-fi greats. For the 1990s, I chose Star Trek First Contact. Star Trek First Contact is an appropriate pick after the Star Wars reviews because it accurately reflects where my interests have shifted with time. As a kid, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Vader, and Darth Maul had me locked into Star Wars. But as I've aged, I fully transitioned to Team Trek. For me, it's the nuanced ethical dilemmas and the character's commitment to duty that really strikes a chord. I believe no Trek does it better than the big three shows from the 90s. First Contact is a little more Hollywood than the average Trek experience, but as a kid, it's what got me hooked. 1.25 wipes from me. And to the listeners, if you're on the fence about any of this series or haven't seen 1990s Star Trek, you are missing out on one of the greatest cultural phenomenon shared by millions. If you are finally willing to crawl out from that rock, I suggest watching 90s Star Trek in this order: Deep Space Nine, Star Trek The Next Generation, and then Star Trek Voyager. And that comes from Jeremiah.
That's a dedication to Trek.
Deep Space Nine, it is a station. It's a space station. They're stationary.
Mm-hmm.
I tried watching a couple episodes. They're not going anywhere. Kind of defeats the purpose.
I feel like it's kind of like the Love Boat.
It is like the Love Boat.
It's, you have the same ship, you have your familiar crew, and then each week people will dock. There'll be wild, like crazy interactions, some romance, some drama, maybe some tragedy, some tension. It's the Love Boat of Star Trek.
And for those people who are unaware of what Jeremiah is doing here, Big D alluded to it, and Jeremiah spoke to it as well. He's picking his sci-fi greats from decade to decade, and chose Star Trek First Contact, which is widely accepted as a sci-fi great in the 90s. Star Trek First Contact is a 1996 science fiction film directed by Jonathan Frakes in his feature film debut. It is the 8th movie of the Star Trek franchise and the 2nd starring the cast of the TV series Star Trek The Next Generation. In the film, the crew of the starship USS Enterprise E travel back in time to stop the Borg from conquering Earth. Writers Brandon Braga and Ronald D. Moore wanted to feature the Borg in the plot, but producer Rick Berman wanted a story involving time travel. So the writers combined the two ideas. They initially set the film in Renaissance Italy, but changed the time period that the Borg corrupted to the mid-21st century after fearing the Renaissance idea would feel kitschy. It would. After two better-known directors turned down the job, cast member Jonathan Frakes, who plays Will Riker, was chosen to make sure the task of directing fell to someone who understood Star Trek. First Contact was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Makeup and won 3 Saturn Awards. It was followed by Star Trek Insurrection in 1998. So Big D, much like Jeremiah, I am Team Trek over Team Star Wars. I wouldn't classify myself as a Trekkie. I was 7 when Star Trek The Next Generation began its 7-year run, and I was one of those kids that watched every week. Each episode was like ASMR for my little brain. I felt like tingles, like a little brain massage, because there was some highbrow stuff going on there. There was a lot of cultural phenomenon going on there, and I was learning about science and diplomacy and emotions and chain of command and a million other things. Strangely, though, I never made it a priority to see any of the films. So while I was very well acquainted with the TV show, I didn't see any of the Star Trek movies until 2009 when they made Star Trek, the reboot with Chris Pine. That one I liked a lot.
So for me, I have a weird relationship with Star Trek. My uncle growing up, who lived on the second floor of our house with my grandmother, he was an avid Star Trek, the original series. He loved it. I would sit and watch it with him, but it was so campy, it didn't really connect with me. So I gravitated towards Star Wars. Star Wars came out. It was a hit. It was aimed more at kids. Then as I started to grow older, like you, Gene, you mentioned that I think Star Trek is aimed more in grounded science. It's more philosophical, so adults gravitate towards it. But as a kid, when I remember, the first movie came out in 79. I was excited. I was like, wow, this is going to be great. This is going to be something I can really relate to. And it was a story again to like the center of the universe and what does it mean for sentient life? And it was terrible. It was not lightsabers and the Millennium Falcon and Death Star. It sucked as a kid. But then, Gene, back in the Kingston Cineplex, I saw The Wrath of Khan. I'm back on board. That is a great science fiction shoot 'em up. It's kind of a hybrid of Star Trek and Star Wars. Again, 10 years before the film we're doing tonight, another time travel Star Trek movie, The Voyage Home, with the whales and the original cast. Great film. But then recently, my love of Star Trek was rekindled by Emma, strangely. We were trying to find something to watch, and we stumbled upon a trailer for Lower Decks. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a cartoon. I think it started in 2020 on Paramount Plus that tells the story of like 4 friends in the lower crew. They're like ensigns on a ship, and Emma, for some reason, loved it. She loved the humor. She loved the friendship. It was probably inappropriate for a 9-year-old, even though they beep out the swears. You can kind of tell they're saying something inappropriate. But we burned through all 5 seasons, and it kind of made me remember why I love Star Trek.
So this is an animated series that is geared toward adults, or is it for kids?
No, it's aimed at adults.
Okay.
Yeah, there's inappropriate situations that they artfully dance around. Relationships and very adult topics that they don't overtly show or say, but you can kind of tell something's funny. And as they grow through the seasons, it became infectious. It's pretty good.
Is it rare to find programs that you and Emma both like? Like my friend Justin, his daughter and son, they love Bluey. Like they love Bluey. And so I sat down when I was visiting them in Nashville and I watched Bluey. I was like, this is great. Like this show's awesome. I would watch this show even if there weren't kids around.
Now, when she was younger, I was more into whatever she wanted to watch. Like we used to watch this, it's a French cartoon, Ladybug and Cat Noir. It's these 2 superheroes and
sounds great
in Paris. But now in her age, like she likes different things and it's harder to find common ground. Like I burned through the original Star Wars trilogy with her. She requested then to continue into The Force Awakens. She's into it until Han Solo and Chewie enter the Millennium Falcon, and she looks at me in disgust and goes, "Oh, what happened to Han Solo? Oh, I can't watch this." She was visibly upset with the aged Harrison Ford. She could not continue, and I can't get her back to start up the second trilogy. We need to find our next Lower Deck if anybody has any recommendations.
All right, Big D, let's set a course for the trailer.
Engage.
In his nightmares, he can see them. In his mind, he can hear them.
Locutus.
In his soul, he can feel them.
I've just received a report from Deep Space 5. Long-range sensors have picked up...
Yes, I know. The Borg. Set a course for Earth. Maximum warp.
Now, in Earth's darkest hour, he must fight them again.
Captain, Earth. Life signs?
Population approximately 9 billion. All Borg.
How?
Time travel. They went back and assimilated Earth. Changed history. I must follow them back. Repair whatever damage they've done.
But this time, they must travel to the past
April 4th, 2063.
to save our future.
You're all astronauts on some kind of Star Trek.
They invade our space, and we fall back. They assimilate entire worlds, and we fall back. Not again. The line must be drawn here.
It looks like the control deck's 26 up to 11.
Mr. Data and I are returning to the ship. Don't let them touch you!
Captain!
Data!
We must activate the auto-destruct sequence.
You want to destroy the ship and run away, you coward.
If you were any other man, I would kill you where you stand.
Let's rock and roll!
Destroy them. Watch your futures end.
Our shields and our weapons are gone.
Resistance is futile. Perhaps today is a good day to die.
Jean-Luc, blow up the damn ship!
No! We are not going to lose the Enterprise. Not to the Borg, not while I'm in command.
Star Trek, First Contact.
In the 24th century, Captain Jean-Luc Picard awakens from a nightmare about his assimilation by the Borg 6 years earlier. Starfleet informs him of a new Borg threat against Earth, but the USS Enterprise is ordered to patrol the neutral zone in case of Romulan aggression. Learning that the fleet is losing the battle, the Enterprise crew disobeys orders and heads for Earth. Picard takes control of the fleet and destroys the Borg's cube, and the Enterprise pursues a sphere launched from the Borg craft into a temporal vortex. Also, crew of the Star Destroyer, pay fucking attention here. When you see something get launched out of a ship, you either blow it up or you at least go after it.
Or chase it.
Chase it.
Chase
Maybe.
it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
No signs of life.
Yeah, back to Picard. Oh, it's just a probe. Let it go.
Let it go.
Just let it go. Don't waste your photon torpedoes or your phasers.
So as I mentioned, Big D, I'm not really well-versed on Star Trek movies. I didn't understand the appeal. I never went to the theater to see them. But I am starting to understand Star Trek movies versus the TV show after watching Star Trek First Contact and Star Trek Wrath of Khan. TV versus the movies is like WWE Raw versus pay-per-view events, right? Yes, the episodic tales are nice, but every now and then you need an event. And much like you, Big D, got pumped when Luke Skywalker flipped into the air and got his green lightsaber, I pumped my fist when the Enterprise just showed up by Earth. It swoops in, pew! There's a bunch of other Federation ships, and they're just fucking unloading on that Borg cube. And I could just hear in my voice the ad for this, right? You always wanted to see the Federation warships in action? Well, here you go.
Yeah, it's because the budget for the TV show was relatively limited. The seasons were long, so you had a lot of bottle episodes that very little could happen. It would always take place on the same sets. It was personal drama. It was an alien of the week that would come in. You didn't get these big fights. You didn't get these big battles or big stories. You know, you had Q and those, couple in between that were big ones, but nothing huge like battles. And I feel that the Star Trek creators, they have a better idea of who their audience is. Star Wars seems to miss the mark. There's a lot of infighting in the Star Wars community. There's the people who love the prequels, hate the second trilogy, hate the original. I even saw on YouTube that there's groups battling within the collectible community that some support retro toys or replacement weapons, while another condemn it as blasphemy within the toy community. They seem to fight, but within Star Trek, you know what people want. They want a good story based on some science, some moral dilemma. See the crew you love in a tight situation where they have to work as a team. Much like Lower Deck, it's about working as a team, Gene. And it works. The audience must have been fired up for these when they came out. They finally get the budget to go along with the story. But as that budget comes, I expected more. Why not? You've got the Borg. The concept is awesome. It's an amazing story. It's probably the best villain in all of the films. And I love the idea. You got a hive mind. There's body horror. And I got to admit, you look at the technology in the movie and it falls flat for me. The costume, it screams Hollywood prosthetics. And I know we're an expert in it now. We've done enough movies. I could see them behind the scenes putting on the foam and they're slapping paint and they're grabbing it looks like convention cosplay. When they're assimilating the ship, there's a bunch of random pipes and hoses and stuff tacked onto the wall. It can't be like the original Star Trek, and I understand that. But they don't feel menacing. It doesn't feel like it's this evil force. It feels like sci-fi Halloween. It feels like I'm at a convention. And for that, I have to give the point to Star Wars on production value. Star Wars never felt like a movie set.
And the fucked up part is this was the improved Borg concept. Big D, I don't know if you remember what the Borg looked like on Star Trek The Next Generation.
No.
They didn't show a lot of skin. It was like a dude in a big black rubber suit, right? It had all the hoses and shit like that. And he had like a little skin showing. If you would have told me the Borg are just like white humanoid aliens that wear rubber suits, I would say, okay, that's what they are, right? You had to know more about the Borg lore to understand what was going on there. Well, in the movie, they decided they wanted to show more of that detail, like show where flesh meets machine and show that these are people who have been altered. I agree with you. It looked oddly clumsy. And even worse is they put the effort into it, right? Like it took hours longer to do this makeup than it did for the TV version of the Borg, but it didn't look any better. And I will say that they were still, I don't know, somewhat intimidating relative to other Star Trek baddies, but this is not the level of costuming and makeup we've come to expect from film franchises like Star Wars.
But they were strangely confident and strangely proud of what they had created because they don't hide it in like a smoky hallway. They zoom in close up as they're converting one of the crew and they're putting that eyepiece on. It looks like you could see the glue. It looked like model parts. It looked comical. And they're all walking around with those laser pointers stuck to their heads. And it looks bad. Hide that shit. Obscure it. But in some worlds, somebody said, oh, this is great. Oh, full lights on the set. Let's do close-ups. It was a mistake.
Big D, I know you're a sucker for time travel movies. You are a resident time travel expert. There's a scene where the Enterprise is chasing the sphere and they mention a temporal vortex. The bridge says, we're looking down on an Earth that the Borg have conquered. The atmosphere has changed. 90% of the population is Borg. But then they keep chasing the sphere through this temporal vortex. And now they land in 2063, but the Borg haven't conquered Earth, but the Borg have beamed onto the Enterprise. I don't know what the fuck is happening.
Okay, so again, I said this is the second time they've done time travel that I'm aware of in the movies. So in the voyage home, the Earth was being threatened by this giant like cylinder monolith. So in that, they take a stolen Klingon bird of prey and they slingshot it around, I believe, the sun. And again, somebody's going to call me on this and be like, no, that's not correct what they did. They went through a temporal vortex. And no, they slingshot around the sun. They went back to a time when the whales were plentiful on the Earth. Here, thankfully, they address it. That's all I ask. It makes no sense. But, Gene, here's what happens. The Enterprise is told to stay away. The giant Borg cube is attacking Earth. The Federation's getting their ass kicked. It seems like within about 15 minutes, Kirk Hey, we got to get there full warp. They get there as the entire Federation is basically being annihilated. And he is somehow communicating now because he was once connected to the Borg. And he finds the weak spot on the Borg cube. He focuses on this one spot. It blows up the Borg cube. But that one probe continues on. They start chasing it. I don't know if the Borg, this was their plan all along, but they had created some temporal disruption and they started to go back in time. So as they start going back in time, on the peripheral of the screen that the Enterprise is seeing, they can see the effect of the Borg going back and stopping Cochrane from making contact. The humans never get warp technology. They never join the Federation. So they remain in the wake. They go through, and I'm already thinking, well, hey, if you've changed the future, you can see that the Earth is destroyed. Why aren't they? And immediately Dana Troy is like, oh, hey, why haven't we changed? And then we get an answer from Data. It's almost as he gives some technobabble. Well, maybe the temporal vortex is protecting us. It makes no sense, but it works. They addressed it. Once I hear it, my brain says, okay, they know it's kind of hokey. Let's move on. I didn't need a 20-minute debate on theoretical physics. They go through the vortex, and I'm on board. It's exciting. We've got a lot going on. Borg, time travel, space battles. This is giving Trekkies hard-ons. They're fully functioning at this moment.
Well, the Enterprise arrives hundreds of years in the past on April 4th, 2063, the day before humanity's first encounter with alien life. The crew realizes the Borg are trying to prevent first contact and assimilate humanity. After destroying the Borg sphere, an away team transports down to Zephram Cochrane's pioneering warp ship in Montana. Picard has Cochrane's assistant Lily Sloan sent back to the Enterprise for medical attention, leaving Commander William T. Riker on Earth to make sure Cochrane's flight proceeds as planned.
So this isn't fair to make this review a comparison of Star Wars and Star Trek, but we just did the original 2 of the 3 in the original trilogy. So we have to make the comparisons. What immediately struck me is how much cooler the Star Trek villains are in this universe. In Star Wars, you've got one big bad. It's the Empire. That's it. And then you get bounty hunters. You get a few bad guys here and there. We have some planets that have random bad guys, but nothing like this. In Star Trek, you get all kinds of different races, factions, the Romulans, the Klingons, the Borg, and they're all distinct. They may physically be different. They have different cultures, different traditions, different weapons, different spaceships. The world building in Star Trek is so much better. Each of these different groups are villains at some point. It keeps it fresh. Whereas in Star Wars, it was very predictable. You knew it was going to be the Empire. And then when it wasn't the Empire, it was the remnants of the Empire. It was the First Order. And then they had to do Death Star 1, Death Star 2, and then Planet Killer. And then Star Trek is so much more original. For that, you got to say Star Trek over Star Wars. And they missed out.
And before we get, we're talking about the film series.
Film series.
Okay, we're not talking about the extended universe. We're not talking about the books. We're not talking about the TV shows. We're talking about movie-to-movie comparison, where you just see more diversity of bad guys.
Agreed.
When I saw that Star Trek First Contact introduced the Borg as the nemesis in the film, I was excited. They're intimidating. They're scary. The idea of being assimilated is terrifying. They don't have the warrior spirit of the Klingons that makes them entertaining. They don't have the cold, calculating mentality of the Romulans. They're strictly there to assimilate you. They have the most chilling mantra, right? Resistance is futile. That's some scary shit. This movie could have been a lot darker. I thought it odd that they wanted to just introduce comedy out of nowhere. Enterprise under Borg attack, crew members are being assimilated, the ship systems are failing, and we get Borg sounds Swedish. Like, who was this for? I get that people paying for a movie in 1996, they wanted to have their romance and their comedy and their action and their drama for one low price. But moments like that just ruined the sense of dread. And Big D, you and I had this conversation on Shat on TV years ago. When you have a sad moment, a scary moment, a tense action, or just a series that is showing something dystopian like Westworld, or showing something some insurmountable odds like Game of Thrones, sometimes a laugh is just inappropriate.
No, it takes you out of it. And Picard, he's having these flashbacks, these subtle memories of going back and visions in the mirror of what was done to him. Even those visions are kind of campy. He should be terrorized. He should be terrified of what could happen. He should be telling everyone who will listen, don't make jokes. This is the darkest hour of humanity. He should be like making people aware. Don't take this as a joke. No, it's not Swedish, you fucking. And I think the one who said in defense that Swedish was the woman from the 21st century who came up on the ship who made that comment. But he should have stopped her dead in her tracks.
Lily was down trying to protect the Phoenix, and then she got like radiation poisoning. She gets zipped up to sick bay. She's getting checked out. They knock her out. She's up. She pulls a phaser on Picard. Like, is she in the mood to be making jokes? No.
Shouldn't be.
Sounds Swedish. But maybe I'm not the audience they were going for, right? If Star Wars is the series of geeks, I think Star Trek is a series for nerds. And this is nerd humor. They can immaculately envision space travel. They can figure out communicators and phasers and alien cultures, principles of physics and philosophy in lots of ways that predicted current technology. But one thing Star Trek is awful at is capturing normal human behavior. The bar scene down on Earth, right? It's going to be a disaster. We're dancing rock and roll. We got to act drunk. There's this cheeseball like sock hop music at the bar. Marina Sirtis and James Cromwell, they're just slurring their speech and kind of letting their heads bobble. That's not how drunk people act, Star Trek. Have you ever been drunk? Have you ever met a woman?
I'm going to go into some dangerous territory here. I'm not insulting the fan base, but Star Trek fans generally are not the most socially aware, socially confident. I worked for years with a devoted Trekkie who worked on some fan projects of films. He lived it, breathed it, conned it, and he was awkward. So to him, the Star Trek, the way that they socialize was normal. To me, it was very, very weird. And we're going to get into it later, some of the strange sexualization that goes on in Star Trek. But I think the fan bases are very different.
I hate to say it, but I almost feel like the cast are also nerds. Like, do you get the sense that like,
yes,
like Jonathan Frakes, he's a fucking nerd.
Yeah.
Marina Sirtis, maybe not a fucking nerd, but close.
Yeah.
James Cromwell, definitely a fucking nerd.
Yeah. Brent Spiner's not out like cruising for chicks. You know, he's not out in a bar peacocking and picking up random women. Maybe, you know, Trekkie, but you look at just maybe it's the storylines, because we go back to the early 60s ones, you know, where you had Shatner. He was a playboy. He went around. He had all the hot aliens who would come back. It was a very sexualized show. So the audience and the fans are used to it, but it gets into some really creepy territory, Gene, where I showed you that you could find however many that I stumbled upon, the hottest girls of Star Trek. And there was all fan fiction, very strange sexual pornography with Star Trek, like artists drawing, people drawing Picard and Data kissing and sexualization of Seven of Nine and all of these hot characters, Dana Troy. That doesn't exist in Star Wars. Yeah, granted, the only one we could really go crazy for was Princess Leia in her bikini, but that's one character. There was no the hottest babes sexualized in Star Wars. You're making faces at me. Who else was sexualized?
You sent me a clip of a Star Wars burlesque.
Oh, but that's today. It was whatever. That was one character. It was Princess Leia.
There's so much Star Wars porn and fanfic. Are you kidding me?
But I told you, I showed you.
Google lightsaber.
Fleshlights. Yes, I know that exists.
Oh, I didn't even know that existed. I was trying to think of something. Wow. Okay.
But I showed you there was a commemorative set of
Riker Dong
of penises yes. There was a commemorative set of Star Trek penises of what they envisioned all of the characters' penises looked like that in a collector's set with a display. It's a very weird fan base, but whatever. I'm not going to shame them, but they are very sexual. The outfits are more sexual. It's their vision of how romance in space would go, and a lot of hot women in small outfits and A lot of boobs and a lot of sexual tension. I sent you the video, top 10 hot babes of Trek. Dana Troy.
I didn't watch it. I was too busy with my lightsaber fleshlight.
So it seems like I'm starting to lean on Star Wars winning most of these comparisons. The one that I think Star Trek has down is the tech, cool gadgets that they have. It's great. You have the holodecks. You have transporters, warp speed. You have phasers. You have the tricorders. You have Picard who could tell the computer, 21st century clothes. Boom! They're in 21st century clothes. They have replicators for food. They've solved the post-scarcity like society. They can create anything that they want. Star Wars, what do we get? Yes, it's old, weathered tech. Very few gadgets. You got blasters. Hey, lightsabers, great. You know, you got the X-Wing and the general spaceship, but nothing else that's developed with it. I got to go hands down, the technology and the cool factor of it. Definitely Star Trek's got it.
I'm going to say what thousands of people are probably screaming at their speakers right now. These are two different genres, right? Star Wars is not sci-fi. It is a space opera. Star Trek is sci-fi. It envisions what is possible through technology and scientific theory. Whereas Star Wars is do whatever the fuck you want if it looks cool. But I think that Star Wars covers its own ass, right? Because it says a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. While we're making these comparisons, we're making stylistic comparisons between two movie franchises, right? And two films specifically, really, Return of the Jedi and Star Trek First Contact. Just as a benchmark for our own entertainment and enjoyment. But yes, we do understand, listeners, that these are very, very different kinds of movies and very, very different kinds of fiction. A group of Borg invade Enterprise's lower decks, assimilating some of the crew. As Picard and the others fight the Borg, Lieutenant Commander Data is captured. A frightened Lily corners Picard with a weapon, but he gains her trust and the two escape the Borg-infested area of the ship. Picard, Worf, and the ship's navigator, Lieutenant Hawk, travel outside the ship in spacesuits to stop the Borg from using the navigational deflector of the Enterprise to call for reinforcements. But Hawk is assimilated in the process. As the Borg assimilate more decks, Picard orders the activation of the ship's self-destruct and the evacuation of the crew to escape pods, while he stays behind to rescue Data.
I feel like it was a smart move not to focus all of the plot on Cochrane making first contact. By having the wormhole, having the Borg, and then the attack on the Enterprise, you split the teams up. You have two different plots going at once. It's much more exciting, and it forces the captain and the characters to come up with solutions to problems, and you have Trekkies always fight between who's a better captain, Picard or Kirk, and Picard is put into a really bad situation. He had been assimilated by the Borg. He's intimately aware of what they can do. He knows how dangerous they are, and he has a problem. How do I fight off this Borg attack? And his solution is strangely dark and not logical to what I'm used to my captains, coming up with. His solution is to flood the engineering department with warp core coolant. He said it will liquefy any flesh inside. This is a terrible decision and a terrible idea. He's willing to sacrifice the entire crew of engineering, however many hundreds are there, plus the ones that were already assimilated by the Borg. It's a heavy call. When he says this out loud to the crew, his two biggest, trusted confidants, Worf and Data, look at each other like, did he fucking really just say, release the warp core coolant to liquefy the flesh? You should have known, hey, I know you're having a personal fight inside. That Picard is saying, I have to do whatever I can do to stop the Borg. But he crosses a line here. I don't remember a time that Kirk was like, let's willingly kill an entire department on the ship without even a hesitation. That's going to be our plan A.
It's almost like Starfleet knew what they were doing when they said, hey, Enterprise, stay in the neutral zone and patrol for Romulans, because your captain has experiences that completely compromise his judgment.
Oh, it's 100%. They knew stay away.
I got to ask you, Big D, being a military man, would you rather go into combat with a commanding officer who knows the enemy and fucking hates them, or a commanding officer who has a level head but doesn't intimately know the enemy?
No, you have to know the enemy. You have to know the strategy, be able to anticipate what they're going to do. That was an advantage. But Picard, for some reason, has allowed some flaw in his psyche that he's not thinking about what I should do, and he's not leveraging his knowledge the best. Come up with multiple ideas. Anyone in the crew could have said, hey, let's liquefy him with the warp core coolant. He should know there's a strategy, much like when he attacked that area on the Borg cube that no one else knew. He should be able to say, here's the weakness, here's how we do it. He's telling people in the crew, hey, listen, if any of you see a crew member who's been assimilated, could be a friend, could be a loved one, a coworker, don't hesitate. Just shoot them. Just kill them. Just mow them down. Everyone in the crew is looking at him like he's crazy. These are people you've lived with on a ship for years, your friends, your relationships. And he doesn't have any other solution. I understand war is cold. People are going to die. You have to make sacrifices. But he isn't even like letting it seep in that he is killing members of his own crew. It doesn't seem to bother him. It doesn't seem to bother anyone else in the crew. There's multiple engagements where they're hand to hand murdering their friends, family, co-workers. And not once do they have a debate and say, what's the morality of this? Picard, you've been saved. You've been de-assimilated. Is there anything else that we could do? They don't spend any time with that. They don't take any serious stock of the emotional fallout of what it means to survive this battle or what Picard's asking these people to do. Gene, could you, if I said, listen, Gene, your mother has been assimilated. Mm-hmm. Don't try to reason with her, connect with her. Just kill her. You're doing her a favor. Could you do it?
She's had a good life. Yeah.
You wouldn't at least try and be like, Mom, are you in there?
Not if she was turned into a Borg. Do you know what being assimilated means?
Yes, they remove all semblance of individuality.
But like, what's happening to the person? How do they change them?
So how did Picard survive? You did it once. He's living proof it's possible.
It's different. It's different. I don't disagree with you. I do think that it's like, okay, hey, maybe we should like round him up and try to figure out a solution here. That's fine. But Picard, and they point that out in the movie too, that his assimilation was different because she wanted like an equal, like she wanted like a counterpart or whatever. So Picard, as Locutus, he had implants, but he didn't have the nanoprobes. The other Borg, they're changed at a molecular level. It's like in their cells. The nanoprobes are actually, it's irreversible, right? Whereas the implants can be removed from Picard.
Okay, I'm fine with that. So why is no one else in the crew having a difficult time with this decision to kill their friends or his plan to liquefy all of engineering?
He's that convincing a commander, but we've seen zombie movies and stuff where you got to put like a bullet in somebody's head. I'm okay with that. Man, it's fucking cold-blooded to phaser somebody to death. He just looks at him. He's like he's turning off a TV. Pew! Done.
And the dude's begging him, Captain Picard, help me. Help me. He knows him by name. Help me.
Bitch, I did help you.
He just fucking kills him. So he's making a lot of strategic mistakes. So now he's got, is it Lily?
Yes.
The Borg don't see Lily and him as a threat. So his move is to shoot the phaser. So now all of a sudden the Borg see him as a threat. They come after him. He then lures them into the holodeck. I'm like, all right, any infinite possibilities in the holodeck. You could do anything. Maybe lure them into a trap, lure them into a room filled with 500 Klingon warriors who are hell-bent on destroying them. Instead, he chooses one of the old noir programs, like a gangster from like the 20s with Nikki the dancer, and it's all to distract the Borg. His big plan is to distract them. And honestly, why didn't you create something bigger? Why didn't you create something threatening instead of having a whole dance montage and this weird, like, stay close, don't make eye contact, and Picard and her dancing and having this, like, this interaction that's no longer, again, Gene, like you said, it's not showing the fear they should have. And I understand it's an homage to some of the plots that they've had in some of the previous holodeck encounters of classic Star Trek, but it's fucking stupid. Would you do that, Gene? Would you go up and be like, hey, where's Tommy the Butcher? Tell him I owe him some money.
Well, the kicker is it ends up in him grabbing a Tommy gun and blasting them. So just do that from the fucking get-go, bro. But you have to remember, Big D, 1996 was prime fedora time. 1996, we had the Brian Setzer Orchestra. That was the thing. We had the Cherry Poppin' Daddies just about to release Zoot Suit Riot. Fucking Tower Records was packed to the gills with Scroll Nut Zipper CDs, okay? This scene was very much in the zeitgeist in 1996 and also very much stupid.
So can you now blame Lily for saying the Borg sounds Swedish after they've seen her transition into this little dress and have done a dance routine with Picard? It makes sense why she thinks this is all a game.
She said that before the holodeck. As Cochrane, Riker, and Geordi LaForge prepare to activate the warp drive on Cochrane's ship, the Phoenix, Picard discovers that the Borg Queen has grafted human skin onto Data, giving him the sensation of touch to coax out the encryption codes to the Enterprise computer. Although Picard offers himself to the Borg in exchange for Data's freedom, Data refuses to leave, deactivates the self-destruct, and fires torpedoes at the Phoenix. The torpedoes miss, and the Queen realizes Data deceived her. He ruptures a coolant tank, and the corrosive vapor eats away the biological components of the Borg.
So it's one of the side effects of serving in the military, and you don't have to have been an officer. I was a non-commissioned officer, and I remember we used to talk all the time after we watched, like famously, I'd mentioned before, the Lord of the Rings, how we would defend Helm's Deep. We would strategize the way we would use the military power in a movie or in the real world to defeat an enemy. So I watch movies like that. We've got now the problem of the Borg, and I'm trying to figure out how would I attack the Borg. And the Borg have this technology where they can block phasers, right? But it's some frequency jumping, it seems to be, where after you shoot them a couple times, they develop this protection. And this seems to befuddle the entire Star Trek crew of the Enterprise. Nobody seems to know what to do. Oh, I only get a couple shots. Why not go to melee weapons? All the Klingons, they have their daggers. Get a sword, a spear, swing something, the leg of a table. That would be more effective than any of the blasters that they have, which you don't know if you're going to get 1 or 2 shots off. Why did no one use the old techniques, the old tactics of like the Romans? Start getting some kind of shielding, locked in place, large spears, and attacking them. Because the Borg have the advantage here. They want to keep you alive. So they're going to have to attempt to kill you immediately because they need to assimilate you. So why aren't you going old school weapon hand to hand? Picard makes a comment at some point like, hey, if needed, we can go hand to hand. But everybody looks at him like, hand to hand? What do you mean? Why not go old school, Gene?
Fuck. Please do not suggest anything that would make the action in this movie any worse. I had a hard enough time, Big D, watching people try making phaser combat and like the space acrobatics look convincing. Like it's supposed to be these really exciting moments. And it's like, oh, it's an old man in a spacesuit floating around. I would not be able to handle swordplay or brawling with this cast. All the action in this movie was so slow and clumsy. Data was the most convincing martial artist in this film. It looked like it was being done underwater.
Dude, but he was also wrecking shit. He was throwing the Borg around.
He's fully functional.
Oh, fully functional. He was capable of anything. And he butchered half of the Borg until he's dragged, inconveniently under the door. But that should have told you, hey, everybody, grab any sharp instrument. Let's attack them. Let's kill the body. They didn't want to do that.
Computer.
Yes.
100 attack robots with swords.
Computer, like armor. Computer, shields, swords, a knife, anything. Tommy guns.
Computer, set the 16th deck on fire. Big D, we talked in Return of the Jedi about how dumb a torture chamber for droids was. I got to talk about Data not being able to apparently feel. early in the movie, we get Data telling Captain Picard, I can feel the imperfections in the skin of the Phoenix, but I can't feel how touching it makes more real. It doesn't seem any more real to me now. I get that. That makes sense, right? He doesn't understand the human experience of touching something and going, wow, that's real. But he can feel the fucking metal. Like he knows it's there. So to lead Data into temptation, the Borg Queen is like, I'm going to put human skin on his body, which, by the way, makes him look like a ridiculous patchwork man. Like they do the eye part. It's silly, but whatever. Suddenly, Data's like, he's acting like he's never been touched before. Data has fucked before. He knows what things feel like, clearly.
No, you see, I think he has the idea of feelings. But yes, he has some kind of scanner. Having the ability to scan titanium and find small imperfections is not the same as having Dana Troy run her hand up the inner thigh of Data. He might know, theoretically, what it should feel like. He probably doesn't get sexually aroused. He probably just knows that when he says I'm fully functional, he's like, this is the point in intercourse where I must become aroused. My penis will now become engorged.
When did Data become a Dalek?
I don't know what his Data voice. I'm having a hard time envisioning Data erect, like with his silver body, and he's probably well endowed because you would equip him if you had the choice. If you're
gonna take the time to build a man, build him right.
Yeah, you don't make him average. You make him, yes, fully capable. But I think when you now give him the skin, he now connects what the theoretical thought of feeling with his emotion chip turned on. I'm willing to go with it. When she blows on his arm, we all know what that must have felt like. And for the first time, Data does.
Which brings me to the elephant in the room, Big D, the Borg Queen. Would you?
Now in real life, or I'm on the crew?
No, I mean, you're a married man, sir. I mean, hypothetically, given the opportunity.
Okay, so I'm single. I'm at a club.
Yeah.
And the Borg Queen comes up to me.
Yeah.
Oh, 1,000%.
Really?
100%. What? Yes. The head thing's weird, but she's got this BDE. She's got this confidence, don't you think?
No.
The personality is very attractive.
No, I find her repulsive.
No, even in a dark room, you really would. Her body seems nice. She's tickling. She's like ASMR. There's a lot of things I think she'd probably be very good at. Some tantric sex.
She looked like she had like some weird like Vaseline layer, the tubes on the back of her head, and then just seeing somebody's like head and clavicles.
I don't know.
Dropped into a body. It was very off-putting. I didn't understand the sexuality of it.
I'm having these weird feelings. Like I would want to follow the pipes to the base and then massage the skin where they enter her. I would. I think I would. And I think Data did too. Data's kissing her and then they cut off. And then there's no doubt, right? They insinuated that Data had sex with her.
Why?
In an effort to make him switch sides. Maybe she gave him skin on his dick.
Then burned off in the vapors.
Correct.
Ow, that's why he was in so much pain.
It was because
his dick skin got burned off.
His shaft, head, and glands.
Like a robotic circumcision.
Were burning up. I would expect Kirk or Riker. Because those two guys, they would be slinging the D all over the galaxy. All over the universe. But here...
You think Picard did? In his Locutus days?
Without a doubt. Why is he running around? Yes, you have Patrick Stewart and Picard. They're good-looking men. Was there any reason to be running around in that tank top, all sweaty and oiled up, showing off his body? Yeah, he was trying to get with Lily, 1,000%.
Oh, I was talking about him and the Borg Queen.
Oh, no, but I think Picard would. He probably would have. He was going to be the king, the Borg king.
I don't know if that's how it works.
But there's no doubt here, right, that Data did do the deed with the Borg Queen.
Much like lightsaber fleshlight, it is not a thought that crossed my mind.
Oh, because she makes it clear. Hey, I'm going to show you what pleasure is. And then right in front of probably all the other Borg were standing there watching.
That's why she was off her game and didn't know that he was going to. Wow, he really took one for the team.
Yeah, that he sacrificed his.
Unless you ask Big D, in which case he followed her tubing.
Yeah, he'll never climax genuinely again. So that was a sacrifice that Data made.
With the Borg threat neutralized, Cochrane completes his warp flight. Later that night, the crew watches from a distance as an alien Vulcan ship, attracted by the Phoenix warp test, lands on Earth. Cochrane greets the aliens, and having ensured the correction of the timeline, Picard bids Lily farewell, and the Enterprise crew slips away and returns to the 24th century.
So we haven't talked much about Cochrane other than his inability to play a jukebox at a normally acceptable level or to be a believable drunk. But there is a surprising part of his character in the plot that I enjoyed. I wasn't expecting the Zefram Cochrane character arc. He's dealing with this legacy that everyone's telling him what he's going to do, the hero he is. They went to the high school named after him. They taught classes in college. And he's not sure that he's that guy. Even throughout the whole film and into the end, we don't think he's that guy, but at least he's going to buy into it. But the whole crew is fanboying over him. And he's making it clear, I'm not comfortable with this. He runs off and gets drunk. And the pressure, though, it's relatable. He's feeling like an imposter. The weight of the world literally is on his shoulder. And he grows into a point where he didn't become a hero. I'm glad they didn't do that. Glad he didn't like throw down the alcohol and be like, I'm going to take this seriously. No, he gets into the spacecraft. He throws on the music. He stays true to himself. At the end, I don't know how the Vulcans don't look at him like the humans are not ready to join the Federation because he is a wild Yahoo with the jukebox and the drinks. He stayed true, but that conflict he had, I thought it was a nice addition.
Yeah, I'd buy into it if his crisis was, I don't know if my ship will succeed. Like all of humanity's riding on me, and am I really that guy? Or am I going to fuck this up? Instead, it was, I'm just a man who did this for the money, which is not that strange for his era. That is what's got him hiding in trees and running from people. Riker then fucking shoots him with a phaser, and he's like, oh, okay, everything's fine now. Back to work. Just got phased.
Well, another thing I just thought of, why would you build the entire encampment around the missile silo knowing he was going to take off at some point? He should have roasted the entire community that watched him take off.
Not that kind of missile.
It was very close. But as we get here to the end, and we know that Gene Roddenberry, he's famous for his love of science and love of the complexities of humanity. I think he has this unreal optimistic version of people. We have Picard talking about, humanity's moved beyond the need for money. They're a post-scarcity society. They can create everything and replicate it. And the idea that Cochrane and meeting an alien coming to Earth will be the one thing that will unite humanity and bring peace. World War III is done. The world is destroyed. I'm sorry, I'm cynical. I don't think it is. I think if aliens landed on the world, even today, humans wouldn't take this as a chance to rally together. It would fracture us more. People would panic. Every religious leader would either come up with saying these are devils, or it would destroy their entire belief system. People would go nuts. Preppers in their bunker, gun nuts. The government would some government, Pakistan, India, North Korea, would definitely attack a spaceship if it landed. Roddenberry's vision, it's uplifting, it's optimistic, but it's pure fantasy. There's no way that humans and humanity would act this benevolent to aliens coming and landing within their camp.
I mean, considering the timeline, they might not have had a choice. So in the Star Trek timeline, the U.S. has a second Civil War in 2026, which, by the way, gulp. And that sets events into motion that eventually lead to World War III, which is like over the course of decades, right? By the time the Vulcans visit, hundreds of millions of people have died on Earth. Major cities are wiped out. Most government is gone. So I imagine the combination of that plus the Vulcans' overwhelming technological advances and superiority, like, I don't think that even if we wanted to fight them, we had a chance, right? The Vulcans could wipe out humans easily.
But I'm saying overall humanity, the world unites.
Yeah.
You don't think the world would take the remains of the United States that made friends in first contact with the Vulcans, would somehow see that as a threat? And would there be some kind of arms race for technology?
It's not that kind of a movie, kid.
No, that's very true. Okay, I'll dial back my expectations.
Well, now is the time of the podcast where we give our Shat score for Star Trek First Contact. The Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie would take to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes, it's a perfect movie. It's 3 shots of something called tequila. 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a film. It's spending years hunting the white whale that crippled you, but in the end, having it destroy you and your ship. Big deal. Start with you. What is your wipe score for Star Trek First Contact?
I liked it. As much as I think we found flaws in it, I think it's the perfect balance of camp, nostalgia, fun, sci-fi, space battles, everything, the morality, the technology. I gave The Wrath of Khan 2.5 wipes. I think this is better. And if you look at just the history of the series, this was the high point until you had J.J. Abrams come in and relaunch it in 2009. This made $150 million. It was downhill fast after this. So for that, I think this is the most fun, most relatable, bankable. I would watch this again. A lot of laughs, a lot of fun, a lot of bad special effects. But I think Apex track. This is 1.5 wipes for me.
Jeremiah, I feel terrible saying this, considering we are now brothers in arms, fighting for Super Earth, eradicated Terminids together, but I did not care for this film. The benchmark I would like to use is, as a Star Trek The Next Generation fan who watched the show fairly religiously, does this film hold up to the TV show? Because I would expect, being a premiere experience, it would be better than the TV show. And sadly, it is not. The decision at its core to combine time travel and the Borg doomed this movie. And then the performances in attempts to carry out action, in attempts to carry out seduction, in attempts to carry out emotions, just did not work. This is worse than any of the Star Wars movies we watched. I'm coming in at 4 wipes. And with 4 wipes from me and 1.5 wipes from Big D, that gives us an average wipe score of 2.75 wipes for Star Trek First Contact.
Gene, that's kind of harsh. Surprisingly harsh. I thought you would.
Not a good movie. Name one thing this movie did well.
One thing well? Mm-hmm. I really shouldn't have to think this hard.
Yeah.
But I like time. I like time travel, dude. I really do.
Okay, time travel.
I like time travel. It's fun to think of what could happen, the possibilities, and the situations and predicament it puts characters in. But yeah, I liked it. It was fun. But again, I like the stupid return to San Francisco and rescuing a whale from the aquarium. So I'm not the best judge. But Gene, with 2.75 wipes, that now ties this in the 249 spot with Kingpin, Robot Jocks, Notting Hill, and Rad. Slightly better than Big and License to Drive. Slightly worse than Cabin Boy and Short Circuit.
This was a monumental film. It meant something to a lot of people. I just don't know what that something was. Sorry, Jeremiah. I really wanted to like this for you. I really, really did.
Have you ever seen The Undiscovered Country?
No.
Oh, if you want to hate a Star Trek movie, watch that one. That one's awful.
Do they go back to like the Wild West, the frontier?
No, but they go and find, I forget who it is. Like they're lured to some outpost and they go and the Enterprise is hijacked by, I forget it. It was like a brother or relative of someone in the crew. And he's like a Svengali. Like he's rallied up all of these misfits from around the universe who's believing in him. He's like a mix of some kind of a religious cult leader, and he hijacks the Enterprise. Oh, it's fucking bad.
Sounds awesome.
Again, I probably just told it all wrong and I fucking remembered it incorrectly, but I just remember it being a steaming pile.
Well, let's see what Jeremiah's got in store for us next week, Big D.
Gee, next week, the hits keep continuing. Freedom Fighter Neo, Trinity, and Morpheus.
Okay, here we
continue to lead the revolt against the machine army, unleashing their arsenal of extraordinary skills and weaponry against the systemic forces of oppression and exploitation in their quest to save the human race from extinction. They gain great insight into the construct of the Matrix and Neo's pivotal role in the fate of mankind. Another situation, Gene. Mankind, humanity is on the brink. Jeremiah loves this shit. And this 2003 hit, budget was 150 million, took in 742 at the box office. This is a big film.
Shoo. I remember how excited I was when this movie was announced because I was a big fan of the first one. And like, this was everything that summer. I'm excited for this one.
Great soundtrack.
Well, thank you, Jeremiah, for taking us through the decades with your sci-fi picks. Can't wait for next week. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media, share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all our information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next time for the following movie.
Here we go.
Hiya, fellas.
It's him.
Do we proceed?
Yes.
He is still
Only human.
All of our lives, we have fought this war. Tonight, I believe we can end it.
That's a nice trick.
upgrades.
Mr. Anderson. Surprised to see me?
So now he's found a way to copy himself.
Now there's more than one of them.
A lot more.
Come on! The machines are digging. They're boring from the surface straight down to Zion.
There is only one way to save our city. Neo.
What happens if I fail?
Then Zion will fall.
They need you.
I need you.
What if the prophecy is true? What if tomorrow the war could be over? Isn't that worth fighting for? Isn't that worth dying for?
She got zipped up to the infirmary on the Enterprise. Is that really what they call it?
I think medical deck or
Take them
med
to
bay
the... Is it the infirmary?